Hi guys, it's Kathy. I hope you're doing well. Hopefully I'm streaming. I just started streaming a minute ago and I couldn't get it to start, but this time it looks like it's started. So we are on May 16th. We're at the last part of May 16th. So, let's just get through May. Get to June. Yes, that's when it gets really good. That's when everything we've done so far is worth it. Because then we get the defense and the conspiracy theories and the crazy and people buying it. I don't get it. I don't get it either. Anyway, let's get to work.
Okay, and you put some pink arrows and those reflect the correspondence between Ronald Goldman's pattern for that marker and the pattern from the glove stain. Is that correct?
Yes.
Um, and that's the glove number 9. That's the only glove you got.
Yes, that right-hand glove was
You
number
never
9.
got the glove from Bundy, number 37.
That's correct. We never received that other glove.
Did we capture that, Your Honor?
Yes.
And
And gentlemen, you're both talking over the ends of each other again. All right.
did we put on the projector the AutoRad A12 for the Pro D4S139?
Yes. That'll be 270B.
270B, Your Honor. Okay, everything's in the same relative position, Mr. Sims?
Yes.
Okay, and once again, you have the K562 sample
Yes.
inside the left ladder.
Yes.
To the right of that is what?
And to the right of that then would be the quality control sample.
And to the right of that is what?
A size marker.
Okay, and then again, the 3 reference samples
Yes.
in the same relative positions.
Yes.
And visually, can you distinguish Nicole Brown from Ronald Goldman from the defendant in this case, based on these results from D4S139?
Yes.
You don't need the computer to do that.
No. The eyeball is sufficient.
And once again, to the right of the 3 reference stains is what?
That again is the sock extract stain.
Well, first there's a ladder and then the sock.
Yes, I'm sorry, the ladder and then the sock.
And that's the same stain, that's from the same stain that Greg Matheson cut out and sent you?
Yes.
And were you able to visually determine whether or not that stain matched any of the 3 reference samples?
Yes.
What did you determine visually?
I determined.
Does it sound to you guys like there's a slight echo or something, or is the sound okay? I would not say Florida has the best food. I said which state has the best food? Food. I mean, of course it's a southern state. Yes, I know. Texas has the barbecue. Louisiana, oh, Kentucky, fried chicken. Which state has the best food?
Visually that it matched the sample from Nicole Brown.
Could you put arrows that depict that, please?
Is this echoing?
Yes.
Hold on. I'm going to try something really quick because I just feel like it's echoing and that'll drive me crazy. Let's try this one instead. Ready? All right, here we go.
I would suggest we reposition those last 2 since it appears the arrows are obscuring the actual band.
Okay, now, and did you follow up the visual comparison with a computer sizing?
Yes.
Did that again determine that Ms. Brown's reference blood seem to match the stain from the sock 13A.
Yes,
And again, did you compare the stain from the glove number 9 from Rockingham, the stain designated by you G3, with the reference samples?
yes, I did.
And were you able to compare, determine visually whether any of the 3 reference samples could be the source of the stain at glove G3?
Yes.
Glove number 9. Which
Yes, sir.
sample?
That glove sample,
All right, step 1 is done. Tennessee it is. I am all for living right next to Nan. And owning a bar, and with Nan. Oh my God. Okay, easy. We got the first step done. Tennessee. Now we need $500,000. Wait. I'm sorry. That's just wrong because the liquor license alone, I'm sure, is $500,000. So we're gonna need $1 million. We're gonna need $1 million to start a bar. Maybe we can start a small bar, and we won't need a liquor license if we use satellite licenses from other places. Like maybe we could start with like a brewery and just use a satellite license from another brewery. Then we don't need a full liquor license. With a small kitchen. Nan is going to provide the cooking. Or out of an RV maybe. You shut your... I almost said something really bad. Yeah, but we still probably need minimum, bare bones minimum $250,000. That's a lot of money. I don't have a, like, my body parts are not okay to sell, so we're gonna need some body parts to sell, or eggs. Well, I tried, Maria. I tried, and it started streaming, but then nothing happened. I'll delete that. Wonder how many views I'll get on a 39-second stream. Alright, Mel is rich. I didn't know you were, like, rich, like 1%. I didn't know you were the 1%. I got a whale in here, guys. Eggs are freaking expensive. We need a sugar daddy. That's what we need. $250,000. I think about that all the time though, Josh. I think that, like, as a group, we should purchase a place where we can go. Any of us can go. And, just like a place for vibers, that we can enjoy year round. We could meet up there. We can get away from our troubles and just go there for a week. There's not that many, like, people in lives. There's only like 40 people that ever come to lives. So it's not like there's not like 1 million people that would fight over this house. But if we had like a beach house somewhere, even, it doesn't have to be very nice. It doesn't have to be great. At least a hotel room, great. Bed, sink, kitchen, and then a fire pit. Has to have a fire pit. That's my bottom drop dead. If it's near the water, that would be awesome. But then, who would own it? Who would be the owner? That's where it gets sticky. That's why I thought. I looked it up. We can do this. It's like a prize for our children. Only one person wins, though. So we all own it equally. But once you die, if you die, you lose all ownership. You can't pass that down. So the last person standing gets it. Gets to pass it down to their kids. That's what I think we should do. We should all pull our money, get a tiny little piece of land, a tiny little house, and then the last person standing wins it. I mean, that's just the best way. Which won't be me. It'll be, we'll get one of the youngsters. Anyway, we're OJ. We're not going to get OJ done if we talk about dreams that'll never come true. Oh man, I would rock a bar though. You have no idea. I would live stream that bar every night. You want to come into my bar, it's going to be live streamed.
match the pattern for Ronald Goldman.
Could you put arrows to that effect?
Can I come at it at an angle?
We can try top to bottom. Okay, now you've got some pink arrows out on a diagonal.
Yes, those are for the Goldman sample.
And did you follow up that visual comparison with the computer sizing?
Yes, I did.
And once again, did you determine that Ronald Goldman reference sample appeared to match the stain from glove number 9, labeled G3?
Yes.
Did you capture that?
Yes.
May that be 270B1, Your Honor?
Yes.
And may we have A13, the auto-read A13, which is for the probe D7S467. It's been labeled 270C. Okay, now these lanes are all in the same relative positions, the samples are.
Yes.
Why don't you go through them from left to right?
Again, lane number 1 is the size marker lane. Lane number 2 is the K562 standard. Lane number 3 is the quality control sample. Lane number 4 is the size marker lane. Then the next lane is the Brown sample. The next one's a Goldman reference sample. The next one is the Simpson reference sample. Then the next one is another size marker. Then we have the SOC 13A stain again, the same stain we've been talking about. Then the size marker, then the glove G3, and then finally another size marker.
Let's go back to the 3 reference samples. Again, is it easy for you to distinguish visually from among the 3 reference samples that those are from 3 different people?
Yes.
You don't need a computer to do that.
No.
And so you move over to the stain from the SOC 13A. Visually, were you able to determine whether one of the reference samples matched or appeared to match the stain?
Yes.
Which one?
That would be the reference sample from Nicole Brown.
And could you put arrows on the bands from the stain SOC, or the SOC stain 13A and Nicole Brown's pattern? Okay, and similarly, did you compare the stain from glove number 9 from Rockingham that you designated G3 with the 3 reference samples?
Yes, I did.
And visually, did you determine that one of those reference samples matched the stain from the glove?
Yes, I did.
Which one?
That would be the sample from Ronald Goldman.
Did you follow that up with a computer sizing?
Yes, I did.
Did that continue to demonstrate that those 2 samples appear to match?
Yes, it did.
Could you put arrows on that, please? Maybe capture that, Your Honor, and mark that 270C1.
C1. Yes.
Okay, don't sit down, Mr. Sims. I just have a general question. You have the SOC stain on both of these autorads, is that correct?
Yes.
So you ran part of the same DNA on 2 separate RFLP runs.
Yes.
Now, initially you mentioned that there is a match between Nicole Brown and the SOC stain 13A with 11 probes, is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay, now the first series just showed 9 probes. Can you explain, if there were 9 on the first series, AM616, and then I believe 8 in the second series, where the additional 2 probes came from?
Well, there is some overlap of some of the probes, and then there are 2 additional probes on 625.
Okay, so you had 9 on the first membrane.
Yes.
616, and some overlap and 2 additional ones on the second run.
That's correct.
Okay, in the third membrane, I believe you described it as AM626.
Yes.
Well, what samples were placed on that membrane to run? Or on that gel, rather?
Yes, those samples included 3 additional stains from the glove, as well as the reference samples from Nicole Brown and also Ronald Goldman.
Could you designate or give us the number that you assigned to those stains? And if you would, just turn to the jury and show us where on your hand the respective stains came from.
Yes, I can do
Point that out.
These stains are designated G1, G2, and G4. Keep in mind G3 was the one we just saw. So this is G1, G2, and G4 now. This is all in the glove. G1 is the inside surface of the glove. Again, we're working with the glove turned inside out. The back of the index finger, back of the index finger, that's G1. G2 is the side of the middle finger. And then G4 is on the back of the hand. It's in this general area in the back of the hand.
On the inside or the outside?
That's, again, on the inside surface,
So when we say inside, we mean the liner?
the liner.
Okay. And in the positions you pointed out?
Yes, and again, I believe there's a poster that will actually show these a little more clearly on the glove itself.
Okay. Mr. Sims, if you would, when you answer my questions, try not to look at me and address them to the jury. At this point, I'd like to have marked as
271.
271. Right now, simply 3 autorads from AM 626. They're labeled A16, A17, and A25. And A16 represents the probe D1S7. A17 represents the probe D2S44. And A25 represents the probe D5S110. Do we have A16 up, please? And if you could get us oriented. If you start from the left and use the point maker, Mr. Sims.
Yes, this particular gel, AM626, represents these additional glove stains compared to Brown and Goldman's references. The other point I wanted to make about this particular gel is we're using less DNA than on the earlier gel. So this is now about 100 nanograms, something in that neighborhood, that was applied for these samples.
Is that why the bands in the right-hand columns that appear to be the evidence stains appear to be fainter?
I hate her. You're right. I hate her. A cruise to Mexico. She planned it at that time. She just to get at you. She did. It was not like, oh, this is when the tickets are cheapest, or oh, this is when I can get off work, or oh, I won a free cruise, so I have to take it during those days. No. She did it on purpose.
That's one particular reason. Yes. The other point is that these involve actual mixture samples, and as I go through these, perhaps we can talk about the different mixtures.
Okay.
That we
Starting
see.
on the left-hand side, we have the ladder.
Yes. Starting on the left-hand side, lane number 1 again is the ladder. Lane number 2 is the K562. Lane number 3 is the quality control sample. Lane number 4 is the ladder again, the size standard. Then we have the Nicole Brown reference sample. Then the Ronald Goldman reference sample. Then another size ladder. And now we have the 3 stains from the glove. G1, then G2, then G4, and then finally another size marker.
Now, why didn't you have the defendant's reference sample on this gel?
Because he had already been excluded using the PCR tests.
And we'll talk about that in a while, but any test that excludes somebody at one marker, absent some other explanation, is excluded for other markers?
Yes.
Now, looking at the 2 reference samples between Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman, can you easily distinguish between the 2 people?
Yes.
You don't need a computer to do that?
No.
Now, moving over to the glove, number 9 for Rockingham, stain labeled by you G1.
Yes.
How many bands are in that pattern?
There are 4 bands in that G1 pattern.
Could you identify those bands, or just point to them? We're going to label them in a minute, so let's not label them. If you just point out
One.
from top to bottom.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, now, Dr. Cotton mentioned that we inherit one of these bands from our mother and one of our bands from our father. Is that correct?
Yes.
What's the significance of seeing more than 2 bands in a pattern like this?
Well, if you see 4 bands, that indicates that it's from more than one individual. It's a mixture of samples.
It indicates that it's a mixture
Yes.
because there are more than 2 bands.
Yes.
Okay, and if you would, were you able to compare Ronald Goldman and Nicole Brown with the four-banded mixture stain, and it's labeled G1 from the glove number 9.
Yes.
And what were the results of your comparison?
The visual comparison was that those two combined could produce the band pattern seen in G1. In other words, G1 could be a mixture of those two individuals' samples.
If you would, hopefully it'll fit. Could you identify the pairs of bands that match up between, let's start with Nicole Brown, between G1 and Nicole Brown? Okay, and what can you say about the remaining two bands in that four-banded pattern when you compare them with Ronald Goldman?
Those remaining two bands are consistent with Goldman's pattern.
Are you going to be able to fit that in? Could you let's change colors if you would.
Excuse me, I might want to come at it from an angle,
From the bottom?
maybe from the diagonal.
Okay. Now, is there anything about the nature of that four-banded pattern in the lane G1 or in the stain G1 alone that helps you sort out whether or not those two reference samples in fact match or came from that, or the stain came from a mixture of those two, the two reference samples?
No, in that lane by itself, it would be very difficult to determine what went with what,
Why is that?
because they're relatively equal in intensity.
And if the intensities were different, what would that help you do?
If the intensities were different, you could begin to see, you might see that one pattern tended to go with one individual, whereas the other two bands tended to go with the second individual.
But as it stands now, because there are no intensity differences between or among any of the four bands in G1, you're unable to say anything simply on that basis.
Yes, I think if you look at that G1 lane by itself, it'd be very difficult to say too much.
Do you want me to keep going?
That'll be a good spot. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our recess for the afternoon. Please remember all of my admonitions to you. Do not discuss this case amongst yourselves. Do not form any opinions about the case. Don't conduct any deliberations till the matter has been submitted to you. Do not allow anybody to communicate with you with regard to the case. And we'll stand in recess as far as the jury is concerned until tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. All right, thank you. By Mr. Darden and Mr. Harmon. Jury is not present.
Now we're on the
Counsel, anything that
17th.
we need to take out
Yes.
before we invite the jurors to rejoin us.
Just one thing, I spoke with Mr. Harmon about indicating to us when he was going to introduce frequencies so that instead of objecting in front of the jury or just working out the ground rules as to what this witness can and cannot testify to, particularly since Dr. Ware is coming, what databases he's going to be using or not using. I want to work it out at sidebar.
All right, but I take it we're going to go through more auto rads this morning.
Yes, Your Honor. At best, we'll get to the statistics before lunch, so, at best.
At best, I think at best as well.
Yeah, I do too.
Okay.
One last thing, and that is, in a friendly way, I would request that Mr. Harmon not bring up teaching with this witness and his personal. There was some references, I didn't object to it at the time, but I thought those were inappropriate. And
Not particularly relevant at this point.
yeah, I think it's vouching, and it should be.
All right, and Mr. Harmon, I'm going to direct you to let me know when you move into the statistics part, the analysis part of the evidence.
Presenting statistics.
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
Judge, Judge.
I have,
Judge, trust me. You will know. Because that little guy back there, he will just be objection. That's exactly what's going to happen. So no one needs to tell you. You're going to know, and you should know that by now.
I'm a little confused on where we are with 47 and 50 right now, because there is some more foundation I can lay with Mr. Sims, and I don't want to violate. It's getting kind of fuzzy where we are with it, and I'd like you to remind me where we went yesterday. So,
What do you have left to do? I thought we were doing probes.
well, we were, but because I thought it was clear where we were before yesterday, Mr. Sims hasn't carefully described what was on the bindles when he received them, and I intend to have him do that as a matter of the chain of custody of these items.
What was on it when he received it?
Yes.
All right.
I mean, then anybody can subtract what's on there now. So, and
Right.
I want him.
You can talk to your son. You just tell your son. I don't need to talk to you about this. But I'm not trying to start an argument. I just want to talk to you about this. This is how I feel. He'll be fine with that.
I mean, I'll be very careful with this, but as a matter of the chain of custody, I intend to, with the court's permission, to elicit what was on him, what was on those bindles, when he received them, and then I intend to show him the board, 4750, and ask him, not what Mr. Scheck doesn't want me to ask him, but are those the bindles that he received? And leave it at that.
Mr. Scheck.
If he directs him to say which initials were on it when he received it, and puts them away, and doesn't do any French pastry or any shtick,
All right.
that's what your ruling was.
All right, let's proceed.
So I can show him the board.
You can show him the board.
Limit it to that.
Correct. All right, let's have the jurors. Mr. Darden and Mr. Cochran. Without the board, please. All right, let the record reflect that we've been rejoined by all the members of our jury panel. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And Mr. Sims, would you please resume the witness stand? All right, good morning, Mr. Sims.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Mr. Sims, you were reminded that you were still under oath, and Mr. Harmon, you may continue with your direct examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Sims, I want to back up to a couple of items before we resume where we ended yesterday. I believe in describing your evidence processing and how you open things, did you carefully note any names, initials, any descriptive terms that were on specific items when you received them and opened them for the first time?
Yes, I did. I photographed those, and I also wrote down what the information on the envelopes and bindles was.
So you have photos of the items which show all the descriptive names and dates and initials?
Yes.
And you also noted them in your lengthy notes?
Yes, I did.
If you would, I'd like you to refer to your notes, if you need to remember the exact descriptions concerning item 47, which was one of the drops from the Bundy walkway.
Yes, that was one of the early items that we looked at.
Okay.
Yes.
And when you first opened and examined and noted the descriptions that were on both the coin envelopes and the bindles, what was on them?
On item number 47, that was a sealed envelope. The seal had the name C. Yamauchi G8880 SID 81194. And then on the front of the envelope was 94-08-17431, the initial CY, and then G8880.
Anything else?
There was also then, for that particular item, there was, it was circled with a B, and then item number 47.
Anything else written on either the coin envelope or the bindle?
No, I believe that's all. On the coin envelope, that would be it. Now, when you actually get to the bindle,
Right. Would you,
which is inside the sealed envelope.
sure, would you describe what writing you saw on the bindle?
Yes, this is now on the bindle, which is inside the coin envelope for item number 47. It said, to DOJ 81194, CY G8880, and on the back of the bindle, it said the sign for number, the symbol for number, 112, which is 112, and it looked like the initials DF, and then CY G8880.
Is that it?
That's it. And then I put my own initials, case number, and date on the bindle.
What did you put on them?
I put on the bindles, and the coin envelopes would have my case number, which is DNA-0040-94, the date that I received it or the date that I actually examined it in the case of the bindle, and then also my initials GAS.
Okay, and why don't we shift to item 50, one of the other Bundy walk drops? And the same question is, what writing did you see on the coin envelope and the bindle?
Yes, again, this was a sealed envelope. On the seal, it said C Yamauchi G8880, SID 81194. On the front of the envelope, 94-08-17431, CY G8880. And then for this, now this is item number 50, it said there was an E with a circle around it, item number 50.
Okay, and you also took a picture of that item.
Yes, I did.
And you wrote, did you write the same things on item 50 that you wrote on 47?
Yes, I would write our case number, our initial, and our date. The only difference would be that I also put our DNA item numbers that are different for those two items on it.
Okay, and those, the correlation between the LAPD item numbers and your DNA lab numbers are reflected in your chain of custody records?
Yes, yes, they are.
Mr. Sims, we're going to put People's Exhibit number 210 up on the easel there. I'd like you to look at photographs that purport to reflect items 47 and 50. And the only question I want to ask you, and I'd like you to consider when you look at it, is are the items in the photographs that purport to be 47 and 50 the same items which you received in the DOJ lab and processed in the way that you've described? Okay?
I understand. I recognize the items by the writing that I placed on them.
Okay, now when you say the items, you're referring to, there are two photos in the column labeled item 47. What do you recognize in the two photos, one over the other, in item 47 column on People's 210 for identification?
I recognize the initial writing that I mentioned earlier, for example, the 94-08-17431, item number 47, with the D circled around it. I recognize my case number, DNA-004094.
Mr. Sims, you're going to have to turn a little more towards the jurors. We're having a hard time hearing you.
I recognize my case number, DNA-004094. I recognize the date and my initials, and then our DNA item number. In this case, it was DNA 5. And I also recognize the CYG8880 that's on it.
Okay, why don't we shift to item, or strike that. When you seal these packages, do you use a specific color tape?
Yes, we use, for the outside of the items, we use a whitish tape that has red lettering.
Okay, let's shift to item 50 if you would.
Okay.
And do you recognize the items that are in the two photographs under item 50 on People's 210 for identification?
Yes, I do. I recognize the writing that I mentioned earlier, such as 94-08-17431, the number 50 with the E circled, my case number, my date, my initials, and the item number. And then I also see some of that information again on the bindles. You can see it in one of the photos too.
And you sealed item 50 with the same white tape with red lettering?
Yes, the coin envelope I did seal with that. The bindles I would just use Scotch tape because it's
Okay,
much easier to work
you
with.
pointed to the top of the photograph in item 50. There's white tape with red lettering. That's the tape you sealed it with.
Yes, it is.
Okay, you can resume your seat. Your Honor, at this point, I want to mark some more autorads that relate to some of the exhibits that we showed yesterday. With respect to yesterday, we marked as People's Exhibit 270A through C the three autorads from analytical membrane 625. Today, I would like to mark additional autorads for that same membrane, AM625, and to make sense, I'd like to start with 270D, and I'll describe the A numbers for the record so we can keep track of these.
All right, that's appropriate.
There are 5 additional autorads for AM625. I'd like to have marked as 270D, the autorad labeled A11, as 270E, the autorad labeled A24, as 270F, the autorad labeled A15, and as 270G, the autorad labeled A22, as 270H, the auto red labeled A24.
All right.
And then additionally, with respect to the membrane that we were discussing when we broke yesterday, that series was marked 271A through C, the first ones that we were in the process of showing. Today, I would like to add as 271D, the auto red labeled A18, I'm sorry, and as 271E, the auto red labeled A19.
All right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And that was for membrane 626?
626. Okay, and
Proceed.
could we get, we didn't capture the photograph of A16 when we broke yesterday, which is 271A, so could we get that back up on the board? Mr. Sims, I'm going to ask you to recreate.
At the same time, I'd stipulate to them putting the arrows in.
Or could we do that? A16 during the break. Could I have 271B, which is A17? Mr. Sims, why don't you come back up here, and if you would, address your answers to the jury. Okay, Mr. Sims, yesterday you had described A16, which is the auto rad for the probe D1S7, and today we have A17, which is the auto rad for D2S44 for the membrane AM626. And could you just describe again the samples that are up there, and we'll go through them. I'll have you mark them as best you can.
Okay. Just to reorient you, this is, again, in lane 1, this is one of the latter, the size standards that we mentioned. This is, I'm sorry,
Get a different color for that. That won't show up very well.
is that better?
Sure.
Again, this is lane 1, this is the size standard. Lane 2 is the K562, that's the national standard that we use. Lane 3 is the quality control, the blind sample. Lane 4 and 5, and in the next 2 lanes now I'll talk about, these are the reference bloodstains from Nicole Brown, and then next we have the reference bloodstain from Ronald Goldman.
Okay, and is it easy to distinguish between Ms. Brown and Mr. Goldman at by their reference samples?
Yes, it is.
You don't need a computer to do that.
No, you don't.
Okay, what conclusions could you reach between the comparison of the evidence stains G1, G2, and G4 on the glove number 9 and the 2 reference samples?
Well, the key on this particular autorad is to see that if you first start with G1,
Yes.
start with G1, that particular sample, and it's hard to see, but I believe there is a band down in this area. It's hard to see on the on this display, but the bands that we see in G1, there are 4 bands. I'll just go slowly through them. 1, 2, 3, and then 4, I believe, is down there. And that pattern is composite. That pattern is consistent with a mixture of the samples of Nicole Brown and also Ronald Goldman. In other words, those 4 bands are consistent with that mixture pattern.
Okay, what about G2? What did you observe in trying to compare G2 with any of the reference stains?
In looking at G2, again, one can see 4 bands, and this gets pretty subtle, and we may later want to look at the light box to see it better.
So you can actually see what you're describing as there better on the light box?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
But I believe you can still see 4 bands in this particular pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4. And what is of interest to me is that now this middle set, these are the 2 bands in the middle here. Now they're starting to get weaker, but you'll notice that the band up here is still quite strong, and the band down here is reasonably strong. It's the ones in the middle that are starting to get weaker. And those bands are consistent with the pattern. They match the pattern of Nicole Brown.
Okay, now let's just pause and talk about G1 and G2 and their relationship to one another. What is your explanation for the fact that that 2-banded pattern appears to be fading and the other 2 bands seem to be staying there?
I think what we're seeing is that the DNA contribution from one of the individuals is maintaining itself at a certain level, where we're getting less DNA from the second contributor.
And is that because there's less DNA there?
I think there's less DNA there from the second contributor, yes.
Okay, why don't we move to G4 then and explain how that fits in with what you just provided us?
G4, again, the trend continues in G4. You can see a band up here. I think you can see a band down there. And again, we'll look at these, I think, on the light box to see it a little more clearly. And now these have almost faded out entirely.
And when you say these, you're pointing the arrow to the
Those-
banded pattern that is consistent with Nicole Brown?
Yes, those are the two bands that are consistent with Nicole Brown, that they're fairly close to each other.
Okay, and I believe you mentioned this yesterday as the explanation for why the defendant's reference blood is not on this gel, and that is because he was excluded as a source of any of these stains on the basis of PCR typing.
That's correct. In other words, we looked at it. We did additional tests prior, so we had that information.
Okay, and this is glove number 9?
Yes, it is.
Okay, from Rockingham.
Yes.
And the additional PCR tests were done on DNA that was extracted from these very stains.
Yes, it's the same DNA.
Okay. Now, well, I'm not gonna ask you to mark this one because we marked the first one for demonstration purposes. Why don't we move on to A25, which is marked 271C? Okay, and everything's in the same relative position because these samples are all from the same gel, is that right?
That's correct.
Why don't we just jump over to the reference samples? Can you easily distinguish between Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman at this marker, which is the D5S110?
Yes, this is D5S110.
And you don't need a computer to do that.
No, one can clearly see the difference in the banding patterns for Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman.
Okay, and as far as the stained glove G1, the number 9 glove from Rockingham, what can you say about the pattern that you see there?
Well, again, we see this four-banded pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4 bands. And again, at this level, the mixture appears fairly equal. In other words, all the bands are fairly close in intensity
On the stained G1.
on the stained G1. And furthermore, again, the 4 bands are consistent with a mixture of Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman. I think
And
you
you
can.
can't exclude other possible mixtures as the source of that 4-banded pattern.
No, not just on the basis of this 4-banded pattern, no.
Right? You can't pair up any 2 of the bands in that 4-banded pattern scientifically. Is that true?
That's true. For example, just looking at this G1 pattern, these 2 bands, for example, could be from one person, and these 2 bands could be from the second person. That would just be one example of the ways a pattern like that could break down.
Okay, but now, as you move on to the stains G2 and G4, is what you see in those stains, or on this autorad, does that help you pair up the banding patterns that you see?
Yes, it does. And I think this autorad is a very good demonstration of what I was talking about earlier. If you look at the G2 pattern now, you can see 2 bands. I'll stop for a second. There and there, that are consistent with the bands seen in Mr. Goldman's pattern. And those bands are fairly similar in intensity to the pattern in G1. You can see the intensities. Comparing the G1 and G2 lanes, you can see the intensities for those 2 bands are pretty close. But now when I go to these bands that are weaker in G2, here and here, one can see that those bands are consistent with Nicole Brown's profile, and it's interesting to me that they are now weaker. In other words, it appears that those 2 bands have gotten weaker while these other 2 bands have maintained a fairly similar level of intensity.
And the other 2 bands that you refer to are ones that they appear to match Mr. Goldman's?
Yes, they appear to match Mr. Goldman's bands.
Okay, why don't you discuss G4 then in the same context and what the implications of the pattern that you see there are?
G4, I think, again, the trend continues. And when I'm looking at a pattern like this, I think it is very informative to look across those samples, because I think you do gain information about interpreting a mixture like this by studying these patterns and how they change across the samples. And in G4, again, we see bands in this position and this position that visually match the bands from Mr. Goldman. They are of similar intensity now all the way across. There's a slight variation there, but it's pretty close, I think you'll see. Whereas now, those last 2 bands in G4, the weaker band here and the weaker band here, those visually match the bands of Nicole Brown, and they've faded out quite a bit. And you can see, in this position, if you look across the bands, you can see the fading, and I think here you can see the fading. And the relative intensities, I believe, are very informative in this case, because now this tells me that the bands in G4 that are in this position and this position
So
tend to be associated with
you
this.
described from top to bottom, the top one and then the third one down.
Yes, the top one and the third one down, one would tend to associate those now with Mr. Goldman, whereas the ones in the second and fourth position, one would now tend to associate with Nicole Brown.
Okay. And without addressing the PCR test results, which we'll address shortly, and reflecting back to the stain from the glove, number 9 from Rockingham that was labeled G3 on the previous membrane, what sorts of conclusions can you draw from your RFLP analysis alone of stains G1, G2, G3, and G4 from glove number 9 that was found at Rockingham?
The conclusion I would draw was, first of all, that the G3 one that we looked at earlier was that pattern was consistent only with Mr. Goldman's banding pattern, and that therefore he could be the source of that DNA. And then looking at G1, 2, and 4, we can also see Mr. Goldman's pattern, and also I think we can pick out separately that Nicole Brown's pattern is there also.
Okay, so at this point, based on your RFLP results, on G1, G2, G3, and G4, you have identified Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman as possible sources of those stains, either singly, as in G3, or in combination in a mixture in G1, G2, and G4.
Yes.
Okay, now, you also, and we just had them marked, did a couple of other probes for this same membrane, is that correct?
Yes, we did.
And were there actually a couple of probes or a couple of autorads that were produced for this membrane that were not used in your ultimate opinion?
That's correct.
And why was that?
There was one probe for which we had a problem with the hybridization, and I rejected the data. I would not use it.
Did those results tend to exclude what you have already concluded and described for the jury here?
No.
A technical problem?
Yes.
Okay, and the other autorad?
The other autorad, as I recall, the locus on that. Can I refer to my notes?
Sure.
Yes, on the other locus that we mentioned, that I haven't mentioned yet, was our D4S1.
Kelly, he needs to hear that, because here's why I say that he 100% needs to hear that. When people quit drinking, so like when people drink a lot, their personality is usually more like, I don't know, vibrant. There's more. It's more intense. It's either meaner, nicer, happier. It's just more intense when they're constantly drinking. When people stop drinking, it's like they feel a completely different person. You know what I mean? They can't equal up to what they used to be. So when they go around people that know him, that know her, that are, they feel like they can't be around the people anymore because they're not the same person. It's not the same. And they feel like they can't. He needs to hear that this new him, this nicer him, is so good, because he probably feels like he's not the same person, and it's. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm saying it wrong. I'm not good with words this morning, but you should tell him that.
39 locus, and in that locus, the two individuals tend to share a band, or they have a very close band, so you don't see this four-banded pattern in the mixture.
Okay, but did those results in any way undermine the conclusions you've already related to the jury?
No.
Okay, and we will show the remaining autorads to the jury in a little bit. Okay, Mr. Sims, why don't you go back up to your seat? Mr. Sims, in reviewing all the tests that were done, in this case, both the RFLP and the PCR, and discussing the results with your colleagues at the Department of Justice, is it your opinion that all the tests that were done in this case were performed properly in accordance with the scientific literature?
Relevant. Discussions with,
Well, why don't you rephrase the question as it is leading?
Okay. Mr. Sims, do you have an opinion about, which is based on scientific literature, protocols in your lab, and whatever user guides were provided to you about whether or not the tests were performed properly and in accord with that information?
Objection to the form of this question with respect to unnamed literature. Overrule wants to state his opinion. Overrule.
Yes, all of the results that we reported would meet those criteria.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to, actually, we haven't resolved a couple of the boards, but I can do the Rockingham board now, and then
All right, let's proceed with that.
could we have the
They muted it, not me. I gotta go, though. I'll be right back, guys. Just give me a few extra minutes today.
Mr. Harmon, this is People's 120, this particular board.
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
right.
That's the Rockingham exterior photo board. And then we want to display People's Exhibit 261 for identification, which Dr. Cotton has already testified about, the Rockingham result board.
Mr. Harmon.
Okay, Mr. Sims, was one of the stains which the Department of Justice performed DNA analyses on in this case what has been described as item number 6 from the Rockingham Trail?
Yes.
And what sorts of tests were performed on item number 6 by the Department of Justice?
On item number 6, which is from the Rockingham Trail, that was our item number DNA 4, LAPD number 6. PCR-based tests, DQ alpha and D1S80 were performed.
Okay, and were similar PCR tests, DQ alpha and D1S80, performed on reference samples from the defendant, Ms. Brown, and Mr. Goldman?
Yes.
And would you look at the top of People's 261 for identification and see if the chart which describes the reference sample typing results, if that reflects the typing results of the defendant, Ms. Brown, and Mr. Goldman?
Yes, I believe it does, although I will quickly check the notes just for accuracy. Yes, those reflect our results.
Okay, and were you successful in obtaining PCR results from item number 6 from the Rockingham driveway?
Yes.
Okay, and what were those results?
From the Rockingham driveway,
Yes.
item number 6, the DQ alpha type was 1.1, 1.2. The D1S80 type was 24, 25.
And were those results consistent with?
Your Honor, I have a matter with respect to D1S80 results. The approach.
All right, with the court order, please. All right, thank you, counsel. Mr. Harmon, proceed.
Mr. Sims, what were the results that you obtained on your PCR analysis of the item number 6, the Rockingham driveway drop?
This is item number 6. The PCR results were as follows. The DQ alpha type was 1.1, comma 1.2. The D1S80 type was 24, comma 25.
Okay, and those were consistent with Mr. Simpson.
Yes, they were.
Could you approach People's Exhibit 261 and remove the 2 covers that reflect those results?
Do you want me to stand over here?
Just remove them and then let the jury see them. We just want to make sure they're what you just described for us. Do the PCR results appear to reflect the results you obtained?
Yes.
And then under the not excluded column, those are consistent with Mr. Simpson?
Yes, they are.
Does that mean he's a possible source of those stains?
Yes, it does.
We'll discuss statistics in a little bit on that. Okay. You can have a seat again. Your Honor, I had wanted to discuss the glove and the socks results, and we never finally resolved those boards. I'm sorry. I hadn't thought of it before we started this morning.
All right, let me ask the jury to step back into the jury room briefly. In the courtroom, Mr. Harmon, which boards are we talking about?
The boards in question are the glove photo board, number 9 photo board that we have not yet marked,
All right.
and then the glove results board, which have not been marked.
All right.
And there were some, Mr. Scheck had expressed some concerns about the way we've presented the information there. So can we start with the glove photo board? Put it up there.
All right, this was going to be used in conjunction with the results board.
Yes, which we'll show you next. It might make sense to look at them both together since they will be displayed together. Could you do that?
All right, Mr. Scheck, any comment?
It's the same objection we made before, and I think that the difficulty for the court at this point in time is that to be consistent in the rulings that have been made with previous boards. If I were in your position, at this point, in the interest of moving on, I might be inclined not to be consistent in the rulings. But the point is that these objections were made known to them a long time ago with the boards, and they've done nothing to conform them. The problem here is the 352 problem and the argumentative problem that the court has been dealing with respect to boards and has been consistent and very, very strict in the rulings. If you look at the Rockingham Blood Result Board, what they're trying to indicate here is that for various different stains, G10, for example, G9, that is Mr. Goldman's blood. For G12, that is Mr. Goldman and Miss Nicole Brown Simpson's blood, et cetera. Even with respect to the mixtures, they're making assertions that these are the mixtures of the blood of these various different individuals, as opposed to simply stating that they're markers, and markers that have different frequencies and dramatically different frequencies. Some of these results that are reflected in the G numbers on the Rockingham glove result boards are RFLP test results, which concededly will have frequencies which are much rarer, dramatically rarer, than the mixture, the D1S80 results with respect to Mr. Simpson on the glove, which is extremely common. And then when the aggregate frequency comes in with respect to the mixture, necessarily extraordinarily common. It seems to me that it gets extremely misleading, and it's a terrible 352 problem. We've tried to be very careful in not mixing up people with respect to these results. I pointed out to them just the other day that it's going to be the prejudice of the glove result board is compounded by the fact that they're giving G numbers. You know, if they want to say, well, we won't mislead the jury because we're giving statistics and not excluded results on the result board, it's going to be very hard to link them up because they're having even different numbers. Now, they knew that this was a problem. They knew what the court's rulings had been on the previous boards. They made absolutely no effort to conform. This has been pending, you know, really for ever since we dealt with the first board with Mr. Clark. They knew exactly what the problem was, exactly what the rulings had been, exactly how they should be conformed, and they just didn't bother. And so now the court is confronted with a situation where we all want to move on with this testimony. We all want to get through this. And they think they can, you know, slide it past, and the court won't be consistent with its rulings. And I just urge you to be consistent in your rulings.
So your objection is that the names of the individuals that are not excluded should be taken off of the Rockingham blood results, and that the item number G1 through 13 should remain, 1 through G14 to indicate where on the glove the samples were taken.
That's yes.
Right.
My turn?
Thank you.
Just so I understand your objection.
In fact, your solution was better than the one I proposed the other day. Well, which is not uncommon when it comes to the boards.
Mr. Harmon.
Your Honor, I promise you that I will never show one board without the other board. If I could hinge them together to ensure that that will never happen, even when I'm not here, I would do that, but our easels couldn't hold it. Here's the problem. We have the same names over there that we have here. And if the jury's going to see them all together, how argumentative is it to have the same names there that we have here? For example, G13. If you want, I can uncover G13 and you see it says it's consistent with a mixture of Ronald Goldman, Nicole Brown, and Orenthal Simpson. That's what we have over there. That's the same mixture we have on G11. So while it may be devastating to see the same thing in two places, how can it be prejudicial if I assure you, to the best of my human ability, that they will never be seen separately?
This court, because the frequencies are all different, the statistical significance, even assuming all this comes in, is all different. The mixture numbers aren't even here. The rarity of these mixtures and the significance one can draw with them, which is the essence of understanding DNA evidence, is all different. And this board is purposely designed to say, this is whose blood it is, and this kind of mixture form, and that is argumentative with respect to these results. They should just get rid of the names.
Say something, Your Honor? I mean, they're going to be seen together. There's nothing different here. You know, what they're doing is that it's the same whipsaw that forced us to calculate mixtures when virtually everything is shaded there, and we'll do that later. And you heard how we just explained just the RFLP results and what he can say and what he can't say about it. And given the eloquence and the credentials of Mr. Scheck and Mr. Neufeld, there is no question that if I overstate the significance of anything, we will be humiliated, and the commentators will have a heyday with us, you know, overstepping the limits of this.
Your first mistake is to listen to the commentators, much less
I
pay
didn't say I
attention.
did. I didn't say I did.
Since they don't know what they're talking about either. All right, here's the problem, though. We do have various different results because we have different tests. This board gives the impression that these are results, not non-exclusions, which is what these really are. I agree with you. It will be very helpful. It is helpful to me to look at this exhibit. It has great probative value telling me where these samples were taken on the glove. This is the first time that I can now picture where the samples were taken, and it allows the finder of fact to think more clearly as to how the blood got where it is. So I agree
We have a
that
non-excluded patch. Would that help to put in? Do we have a non-excluded patch? We have a lot of them, so. We have a not excluded patch. See, this board started out with a possible source. Now, we can say possible source, but we can't put it on the board. So we've been forced to put not excluded on the column there. So to get a little symmetry here, let's put not excluded on this board.
have you got a non-excluded?
if we can get I'll defer to after the lunch hour, if a not excluded patch will suffice on the top of the board. I mean, we had possible source on it and just got rid of it because of the anxiety that created.
All right. Let me see it with a non-excluded after the lunch hour. All right, let's proceed.
Justin, that's not going to solve the problem with respect to the mixtures and the different probabilities. My suggestion is the one that the court raised, and could they also prepare something that would take this board in conjunction with the result board, which I think would be a far more accurate and not confusing way. I mean, whereas you would see in connection with the result board exactly which location is referred to in terms of the different patterns, the not excluded and the frequencies, so they could be linked up, but does not make the confusing and argumentative kinds of assertions here. So if you could ask for I'd ask that they prepare a backup system of patches just in case.
All right, I'm going to direct the prosecution to prepare a not excluded addition to the Rockingham blood results board, and when we mark these for identification purposes, they will be to whatever it is, A and B, so that they are always part of the same exhibit. All right, that's the order. Let's proceed. Let's have the jury please take the blood photograph, excuse me, the glove photograph down.
The Rockingham board right now and put it up. And we'll make sure that that doesn't ever get seen by the jury until we have another one.
Is it removable, Mr. Fairlaw?
Yes, Your Honor, it is.
Let me see it. Please be seated. All right, proceed, Mr. Harmon.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Let's proceed.
Can we proceed with that as we, okay. Your Honor, at this point, I'd like to have marked as People's Next in Order 272, a photo board showing item number 9.
No, not the photo board. The agreement was after lunch that was going to be taken care of.
Oh, I misunderstood. I thought we would do that now.
No, that wasn't done. Let's proceed.
Okay, and we didn't address the sock board either, which is,
Well, move on.
okay, moving right on to exhibit number 172, the Bronco photo board. Your Honor, what time does the court intend to break today?
10:30.
10:30, okay. And could we show that in conjunction with the Bronco results board, which has been marked as Exhibit 260? Mr. Sims, while the photo board is being found, did the Department of Justice perform DNA analysis on LAPD item number 24, which was marked as your number 15?
Yes.
And did your department or your laboratory also perform DNA analysis on item number 29 from the Bronco steering wheel, which you marked as DOJ 16?
Yes.
And did your department perform DNA analysis on item number 30, LAPD item number 30 from the center console of the Bronco, which you marked as DOJ DNA 17?
Yes.
And did your lab perform analyses on item number 31 from the Bronco center console, which is your number 18?
Yes.
And did your laboratory perform analyses on item number 34 from the Bronco driver's side wall, which you marked as item 20?
Yes.
And did your department perform DNA analysis on item 293 from the carpet driver's side, which you marked as your number 29?
Yes.
Did your department perform DNA testing on item 303 from the center console, which you marked as DOJ 52?
Yes.
Did your department, your laboratory, perform DNA testing on item 304 from the center console, which you marked as DNA 53?
Yes.
And finally, from the Bronco, did your lab perform analysis on item 305 from the center console, which you marked as item 30?
Yes.
Okay, let's go back to the top then. Item number, 24, which you marked as DNA 15. What sorts of tests did you perform on that sample?
The test that was performed was DQ alpha typing, PCR DQ alpha typing.
And that's the only test you performed?
Yes.
What result did you obtain?
The type was 1.1, comma 1.2.
Okay, and is that result consistent with the known type of Mr. Simpson, the defendant in this case?
Yes, it is.
Would you step to the board and remove the covers on item 24, your number 15? Can you reach it? Not yet, huh?
Mr. Fairlow? Yep. Good.
And that reflects DQ alpha 1112?
Yes, it does.
And was the defendant excluded as the possible source of that stain?
No, he was not.
Could you remove that column? Okay, and item number 29, did you perform DNA testing on that sample?
Yes.
What results did you obtain?
And again, when you're saying me, that's our laboratory.
The laboratory, sure.
On item number 29, I'm sorry, this is,
Item number 29, your number 16.
yes, okay. That test was the DQ alpha test.
And what were the results?
The result was that we found mainly what we consider to be a type 1.1, comma 1.2 with a weaker 4 allele.
Okay, would you remove the cover? And are the results accurately depicted on 260, the exhibit board?
Yes.
And let's just talk about, this is one of the samples you sent extracted DNA to Cellmark from, is that
Yes.
correct? And the only test in common that you and Cellmark performed, if the chart is correct, is the DQ alpha testing, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you have described a weaker 4. What's the significance of seeing a 1-1-1-2 weaker 4?
With the weaker 4 allele, well, first of all, by my interpretation, I saw the 1.1, 1.2, which is consistent with the defendant's own type, which is 1.1, comma 1.2. I noted the weaker 4 allele. And in my interpretation, because there was so little DNA in this sample, I was hesitant to make much of a conclusion of that weaker 4 as to who could be the source.
Is this one of the ones you struggled with in terms of how to describe the significance or the conclusions of your results?
Absolutely. It's a
And-
difficult interpretation.
And it's clearly a mixture.
Yes.
And what's the significance of the low amount of DNA with respect to being able to draw a conclusion on this sample alone?
On this sample alone, my concern was with that very low level of DNA to begin with, and given that it is a mixture, I would be concerned that we may not detect one of the weaker alleles in a mixture.
Now, when you say there was a low level of DNA to begin with, you performed some sort of quantitative analysis of the DNA.
Yes, we do.
And when you perform that sort of quantitative analysis, is that a quantitation of the total amount of DNA that's in the mixture,
Yes,
but not the relative contributions of the different sources?
that's correct. In other words, we just knew the total DNA, but we wouldn't know the breakdown of the mixture from that procedure.
Okay, and is this one that you actually, it was difficult for you to describe in terms of what your conclusion was about who was excluded and who was not excluded?
Yes.
And is your, I'm going to ask you to describe it to the best of your ability, the way you described your conclusion in your report. Do you have your report memorized in terms of how you concluded who was excluded and who was not on this stain?
I don't have it memorized, but I have my report in front of me.
Okay, would it help to just read it over and do the best you can with that?
Yes.
How did you describe your conclusions in terms of comparing your result with the reference samples in this case?
Well, the main point I made, again, was that I saw this particular combination of 1.1, 1.2 as being the major component of this pattern. And so from that, I concluded that Mr. Simpson could not be excluded as a possible source of that sample.
And is that clear, that was not, you did not exclude him on this stain?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, where'd you go from there?
Well, what I went from there was I saw this 4 by itself. I did not see Mr. Goldman's type in full, which was the 1.3, 4. But I was hesitant to make an absolute exclusion of Mr. Goldman on that basis.
Why?
Well, what this kind of result tells me is that this is probably a good sample for additional testing, which is one reason we sent that to Cellmark, because this information was just limited as to any conclusion with Mr. Goldman. At the same time, I want to point out that I don't think it's proper for me to stand here and say, oh yes, that 4 came from Mr. Goldman. That's not the kind of point I'm trying to make at all. The point I want to make is that when you're talking about absolute exclusions, we said that we could not make a clear-cut exclusion of Mr. Goldman on that sample. But I'm not suggesting for one moment that he's the source of that 4.
So you can't exclude him,
I could not make what I call a clear-cut exclusion.
but you're not saying he's included either.
That's exactly right. I think that would be very prejudicial.
For that matter, can you tell us how many people could produce the combination of types that you see in your results?
With just the major
How
type.
many people, can you actually put a limit on how many people total could have contributed to that mixture?
Well, it would be very difficult with interpreting that very weak 4 and not knowing what else may be there in the weak component.
Okay, I guess my question is not clear. What's the maximum number of people that could have contributed the mixed results that you alone obtained on that sample?
Well, the maximum number, if you start thinking of all the different possibilities, that would certainly add up. I mean, you could have 2 people, for example, that are of the same type that contribute to a mixture. So,
But let me just give you a general question. Without knowing the types of this group, could you exclude the starting lineup of the LA Lakers?
if I knew their types,
If you, but just by the number of them?
no, it would be very difficult to make that kind of determination. But again, I can only speak to what I see. I can't.
Are your results necessarily inconsistent with Cellmark's conclusion in any way?
Oh, not at all. And for example, if one wanted to say that Nicole Brown could be there because her 1.1 allele is present and she is a 1.1, 1.1, then certainly that's a possible combination.
Okay, and given the way you've questioned it, do you feel there's any point to put Mr. Goldman's name in the not excluded column?
I think this is sort of an asterisk situation. I don't feel comfortable putting him there. I certainly wouldn't feel comfortable putting him in a possible source. I think that would be correct.
Okay, fine. Well, let's move on to item number 30 from the center console, number 17.
Okay?
What results did the lab obtain on your analysis of number 17?
On that particular sample, we did 2 different PCR systems. We did the DQ alpha typing and also D1S80 typing.
And what were those results?
The results were DQ alpha type for number 30 was 1.1, 1.2. The D1S80 type was 24, 25.
And were those results consistent with Mr. Simpson, the defendant?
Yes.
Could you remove those 2 covers from item number 30? Okay, and the board 260 accurately depicts the results that you just described?
Yes.
Let's move to item number 31 from the center console. Your number 18, what sort of tests did the lab perform on those?
The lab performed DQ alpha and D1S80 tests.
And what were the results?
The results were as follows. On the DQ alpha test, we determined that there was mainly 1.1, 1.2, and we also saw what we considered to be a weaker mix with 1.3 and 4 alleles.
Okay, and how were you able to determine the stronger or weaker conclusion?
When one is looking at one of these typing strips, one can see that there is a stronger contribution, a stronger dot for particular types than for some of the other dots. And it's analogous to the process I was showing you on the RFLP. It's a different typing system, obviously, but it's the same idea about picking out what 2 alleles might go together because they're stronger, or what 2 alleles or dots might go together because they're weaker.
So sometimes you can sort them out by the relative strengths of these things?
Yes,
And sometimes you can't.
that's correct.
And would that same general provision apply whether it's RFLP or PCR?
Yes.
Why don't you remove the strip covering the results for 31, as well as the not excluded category? So would you describe, you've listed in the not excluded category the defendant in this case. Why did you include him in what you saw, in the mixture results that you saw from item number 31, the center console?
We included the defendant because his types are present in the sample, 1.1, 1.2 for the DQ alpha, and also 2425 for the D1S80.
Okay, and the weaker 1.3, 4, who is that consistent with?
That's consistent with Ronald Goldman.
And let's talk about Mr. Goldman's D1S80 type, and Renee Montgomery will be testifying next and demonstrating some of these results. But
Sustained. Curious to disregard that last comment.
how can you sort out, looking at the reference types of Mr. Simpson, the defendant, and Mr. Goldman, it appears they have something in common with D1S80, is that correct?
Yes, they do. They both share the 24 allele.
Okay, so how can you determine that if you see a 24, 25, as you did in this case, is there anything about the results that help you sort out the mixture?
In some cases, there are clear distinctions. It varies from sample to sample, however.
Okay, so let me make sure I understand, or we've explained this, you've explained this to the jury. The results from 31, are they clearly a mixture?
Yes,
And they're clearly a mixture that is consistent in the stronger regard on DQ alpha with the defendant.
yes.
And then the weaker 1.3, 1.4, could that have come from the defendant in this case?
The weaker 1.3, 4 could not have come from the defendant.
And it's consistent with Mr. Goldman.
Yes, it is.
Let's just stop for a second and talk about inheriting patterns from parents. Is this mixture stain, could this mixture stain that we're talking about, item 31, be consistent with an offspring of the defendant and Nicole Brown?
No, not if you look at, for example, the DQ alpha types for the defendant and also for Nicole Brown. Their children would be either 1.1, 1.1, I'm looking up here now, or 1.1, 1.2.
And is that because an offspring would have to inherit a 1.1 from Nicole
Yes,
and would have to inherit either a 1.1 or a 1.2 from the defendant?
yes,
That's just DQ alpha.
yes.
And now D1S80,
With re-
what combination of types could an offspring have of the defendant and Ms. Brown?
well, again, with the idea that one comes from the mother and one from the father, the D1S80 types for the offspring of Nicole Brown and the defendant would be 1824 or 1825.
Okay. So the D1S80 type alone that you obtained from item 31, the console, that alone could not be from an offspring of the defendant, Mr. Simpson, and Nicole Brown.
That's correct.
And the DQ alpha mixture alone could not be consistent with an offspring of the same two people.
That's correct.
Okay, let's move to item number 34, the driver's side wall in the photograph
Yes.
down at the lower left-hand column. You're number 20. What sorts of tests did you perform on that stain?
That was just DQ alpha type.
And what results did you obtain?
The type was 1.1, 1.2 for number 34.
Okay, would you remove the covers from that one? And the possible or the not excluded, who did you not exclude?
Mr. Simpson, the defendant.
And so that result is consistent with him.
That's correct.
He's a possible source.
That's correct.
Now, that's the same result that you obtained on item 24, the instrument panel, is that right?
Yes.
Now, why didn't you do any more tests on those two items?
As I recall, there was very limited DNA in those samples.
And taken at face value, given you just told us about the hereditary nature of these samples, that result could be consistent with an offspring of the defendant, Mr. Simpson, and Nicole Brown.
Yes.
Let's move on to item number 293, the carpet on the driver's side. This is in the photo at the bottom in the middle with the pointer.
Okay.
What sort of tests did you perform on that sample?
We performed DQ alpha and D1S80 tests.
And what were the results of those tests?
The results were as follows. For DQ alpha, the type was a 1.1, 1.1. We noted that there was a possible trace of 1.2 present. For D1S80, the result was 18, 18.
Okay, and is that, other than the possible trace that you've described, whom are those results consistent with from among the three reference types in this case?
Nicole Brown.
Would you remove the cover on those results and the not excluded column? Could those... Move that up.
Okay, you can stop now. You have proven that OJ, Ron, and Nicole's blood are in the Bronco. Fine, we got it. Keep going. Move on. Oh, you're not going to? Okay. Okay.
Could those results, in combination, the DQ alpha and D1S80 types, could those have come from an offspring, a child of the defendant and Nicole Brown,
No.
for the same reasons you've described?
Yes.
Now, what's this possible trace 1.2 in there? What's that?
Well, when one performs this kind of testing, one can get, especially with these one types, and these what we call these one subtypes, one sometimes sees very faint dots. And you can't always be sure if those very faint dots are attributable to an actual type or if they may be an artifact from the typing process.
So, in the context of this case, could you say that based on the total of your PCR
Oh, for the
results,
love of God and all that's holy. Are they all boards we're going through? Are we looking at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10-ish boards more that we have to go through? Is that what we're seeing? No. No. No.
Mr. Simpson's type could also be in there because he's a 1.1, 1.2.
You could not exclude him on that basis if there was some of his DNA present. However, we find no evidence of his DNA in the D1S80 type.
And is the D1S80 test, based on your review of the literature and your use of these protocols, is that as equally sensitive?
Maybe they're acoustical tiles. Could be.
Do you feel, based on
They're redoing
your
the
observations,
ceiling.
your review of the data in this case, I notice we don't have the defendant's name in that not excluded column. Are you saying that it is your opinion that he could be included in that stain based on all the results?
I think there's a possibility of that, although not seeing his type on the D1S80, I wouldn't have that information.
Move to strike. Last starting action.
And Mr. Goldman is excluded or not included as the result of these tests, is that correct?
We do not find his type, so he is excluded.
Okay. And item number 303, the center console stain, which is in the lower right-hand photograph on the board, exhibit number 172. What sorts of tests did you perform on item 303?
We performed DQ alpha and D1S80 tests on that.
Okay. And what were the results of those tests?
The results were as follows. For DQ81, DQ alpha, 1.1 allele was present, possible 1.2 allele present, 1.3 and 4 alleles were also present, indicating a mixture.
Okay, would you remove that under PCR results?
Would you like me
Oh,
to state
and the D1S80, sure, I'm sorry.
The D1S80 results were mainly the 24 and 25 alleles, along with a weaker 18 allele, again indicating a mixture.
Okay, so clearly it's a mixture.
Yes.
Would you remove the cover from the PCR results?
Well, we know OJ was
From
there.
among the 3 reference samples that were
And
provided
Nicole.
to you in this case, whom could you not exclude?
All 3 of the individuals, the 3 principals, the 2 victims and the defendant.
Oh, yeah.
Consistent with
And
being
Ronald Goldman.
Could you remove the cover from the not excluded column? Does that mean, at least as far as the 3 reference samples that were provided to you in this case, that the defendant, Mr. Goldman and Ms. Brown, are possible sources of the stain on 303?
Yes.
Is there anything about, just focusing on DQ alpha, the relative intensities of the DQ alpha results that help you sort out the relative strengths of these things?
No, on this particular sample with the DQ alpha, the intensities were all very similar.
So this is one where the relative intensities don't help you,
That's correct.
right? Unlike the glove RFLP results
Yes.
and unlike 29, the steering wheel.
Yes.
Now, you're not saying they're the only 3 people who could have contributed that mixture, are you?
That's correct. I'm not saying.
And without knowing the starting lineup of the San Antonio Spurs, you can't exclude them as being the possible contributors of that, is it?
Move to strike that, and I have take a strong exception to naming certain basketball teams, and not others.
I'll get to the Knicks here. I'll get to the Knicks next. Can he answer that, North? Could you answer that?
Yes, I could not exclude the San Antonio Spurs.
Okay. Just the starting lineup.
The starting line. The
Okay.
starting.
Let's move to 304, the center console stain, your number 53.
Yes.
What sorts of tests did you perform on those stains?
Again, it was DQ alpha and D1S80 typing.
And what results did you obtain?
The results are, to make it simple, the results were the same for 52 and 53 gave the same results with DQ alpha and D1S80.
So could you remove that cover from that column? And the same as far as possible sources?
Yes,
Okay, why don't you remove that? And would you characterize them the same? In other words, you cannot exclude the three people that are listed in the not excluded column as possible sources of that mixture.
that's correct.
Let me ask you just a general question about 303 and 304. When you say it's a mixture, are you saying that the types that you see in 303 and 304 in total are more than you would expect to see from a drop of blood from the defendant in this case?
Yes.
He could not be the sole source of stain 303 and 304.
That's correct.
And you can't tell us, for example, if these different mixtures were deposited on top of one another at different times.
I couldn't tell.
You can just tell us what was there at the time you tested it.
That's correct.
Okay, let's move to 305, the center console, which again is in that photo in the lower right-hand corner. What test did you submit stain 305 to?
That was the DQ alpha typing and also the D1S80 typing.
What results did you obtain?
For that particular sample 305, the DQ alpha was 1.1, possible 1.2, and then weaker 1.3 and 4 alleles, indicating again a mixture.
And then how about D1S80?
D1S80, mainly 24 and 25 alleles with weaker 18 allele, again indicating a mixture.
Okay, now, once you remove the covers from that, now, how would you compare, it looks like you've described 305 somewhat differently than 303 and 304, is that true?
Yes.
And what can you tell us about why you've described them differently?
They were described differently because in this particular case with 305, one now sees that the 1.3 and the 4 alleles are weaker than the 1.1 and the possible 1.2 allele.
Okay, and you've already described that Mr. Goldman's type, DQ alpha type, is 1.3, comma 4. Is that true?
That's correct.
And is this somewhat like the RFLP mixtures when you can see things stronger and things weaker than others? That helps you pair types up?
Objection, leading, and no foundation.
Does it help you pair types up in the DQ alpha marker when you see some dots stronger than others?
Yes.
Okay, and is that the basis for your describing 1.3, comma 4 as weaker?
Yes.
And would it be fair to say that 303, 304, and 305 produced consistent results between and among one another?
Yes, overall they are consistent, those three.
Is there anything inconsistent between or among any of those three stains?
Objection, vague.
No, there's nothing inconsistent other than the weaker 1.3, comma 4 on 305, but otherwise they're very similar patterns.
Would this be a good break time, Jim?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our break for the morning session. Please remember all my admonitions to you. Don't discuss the case. Don't discuss the case amongst yourselves. Don't form any opinions about the case. Don't allow anybody to communicate with you. Don't conduct any deliberations for the matter of incident to you. We'll stand at recess till 15. Joined by all the members of our jury panel. Mr. Harmon, you may continue with your direct examination of
Thank you,
Mr.
Your Honor.
Simpson.
Mr. Sims, I want to go back to item number 6 that you tested from the stain at Rockingham. Was there a substrate control you tested along with that?
Yes, there was. There was a substrate control that was tested in, I believe, D1S80.
Okay. Does it matter in terms of testing the substrate control for the presence of any biological material on it, whether you test it with the DQ alpha marker or the D1S80 marker?
Well, either test is capable of detecting very low levels of human DNA. So by that criterion, we didn't detect anything in the substrate control for that item that would indicate there was some human contamination.
Okay. And the same with respect to the Bronco stains that you tested. I'm not going to put the board back up there, but would you please describe which of the stains from the Bronco that your lab tested that also tested substrate controls?
Yes, for those particular samples, wherever we presented a DQ alpha or a D1S80 result, we also tested in that particular system the substrate control, and in all cases those were all negative.
So every item that was on the Bronco result board, which was Exhibit 260, you also tested a substrate control. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct. In each one of the systems that we tested, whether it be DQ alpha and or D1S80.
Okay, fine. Let's move on, if you would. I'd like to have marked as people's next in order a board described as the glove number 9 results board. And may that be 272,
272,
the glove results.
yes, and
And then 273 for the glove photo board.
how about 272A and B?
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot, Your Honor. 272A and 272B.
I think we need it up a little, Mr. Fairlaw.
Okay. Mr. Sims, have you had a chance to see 272B, which is the photo board that has photos of the glove inside and out?
Yes, I have.
And are the photos on 272B, are they actually photos which you took?
Yes, they are.
Okay, and on 272B, which is the photo board, there are numbers, G1, G2, G3, et cetera. Do they correspond to your item number?
Yes, they are. The red lines point to the approximate locations where I sampled those stains with those designations.
Okay, and actually your item number, the main number that you assigned to the glove from Rockingham was what number?
That was DNA 13, which is LAPD number 9.
Okay, and then the G numbers are the numbers you assigned to individual stains that you collected?
Yes.
And if you look at 272A, the result board, are those items under the column entitled cell mark / DOJ number, the G numbers?
Yes, they are.
And all the results that you obtained are represented by the numbers that are listed there, G1, G2, G3, G4, G9, G10, G11, G12, G13, and G14?
Yes.
Okay. Let's step back just for a moment and talk about your examination of the glove, just for a couple of questions. And if you would, it probably would be better, step up to the board here, and if you use the long pointer so all the jurors can see.
Mr. Sims right there.
I don't even understand, Josh.
Let's start with the back.
This is frickin' riveting. This is just absolutely riveting. I hope he goes through G1, G2, G3, G4. I hope he names them all again, because we might not be able to count to 13 without him going through each one like that in a list. Look. Everything is right there on the board. It should take 2 minutes to say, okay, runs, right? Okay, OJ, Nicole. So all 3 people were absolutely found on this glove, correct? Next glove, correct? Done. I have a lot of words. I do have a lot of words. I know this, but they beat me. It's hard. It's like they just try to throw in as many words as possible without ever making a point. I mean, people were murdered here. I know, we haven't got to that part yet, but sort of why we're here.
Of the hand inside photo. Could you just, in numerical order, describe what the substance is or what the material is that those stains were removed from?
The substance that the stains were removed from is this material that forms the inside lining of the gloves.
Okay, now, as far as the stains on the inside of the glove, did you make any attempt to correlate the location of those stains to stitching or seams on the outside of the glove?
Well, I noted that the gloves were stitched, especially along the fingers. We don't see it here, but along the back of the hand there's stitching, and there's also stitching along this thumb area down here. I think there were also some holes in the glove when I received it. But those are various locations where the main thing was the stitching. That's what I was interested in.
And what, if anything, is the relationship of the stitching to where you found stains on the inside of the glove, if you can generalize?
Yes, in general, particularly when we're talking about the fingers and out towards the finger areas, that's where the stitching is. And I made the determination that the vast quantity of blood from the outside could have followed that stitching instead of wicking up into the inside. That was what appeared to have happened to me.
Now, were you provided a substrate control for any or all of the stains in this case?
No,
For the glove, I'm sorry.
No, the problem with the glove is that there's so much blood all over it that it would be very difficult to find an area that didn't have traces of blood on it.
And would that be unusual with an item that was as heavily covered with blood as this glove was on the outside to not have a substrate control?
That would not be unusual.
And does the failure to have a substrate control in the results that you're going to be describing in a moment, does that in any way, in your opinion, undermine the results that you're going to be presenting?
No, I don't think so. And I think in particular with that sort of situation, what I did was to look at some multiple areas to try to see if certain types would be reproduced consistently or in different areas so that it wasn't just a one-shot determination.
And how might that address the failure to have a substrate control, testing from diverse areas on the same item?
Well, by looking at diverse areas and seeing diverse results, that would give an indication of what the different mixture patterns, for example, might be.
Okay. Why don't we, you can have a seat up there. Why don't we start out from item number 9, the right-hand glove from Rockingham. Would you
Gotta
please...
go through the stitches first,
We
Kelly.
Mr. Simpson has a
Stitches.
voice to turn and
Sure.
face the jury.
Could-
And he's also keeps blocking juror number 7. So once you stand on this side...
So if you stand over here, yeah.
Okay.
Would you describe what sort of tests were performed on G1? I think you've already described generally the RFLP results. We showed them on AM 626. Is that the results that correspond to G1?
Yes, what we saw on G1.
Could you remove the cover of the RFLP column, please? Okay, now,
4
you've already
probes.
described
Oh
those
my gosh.
RFLP results as being possibly a mixture. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what PCR results did you obtain from that mixture stain?
From that mixture stain, the results were that we had DQ alpha and D1S80 results.
And what, specifically, what results did you produce for the analysis of the stain at G1?
Listen,
For
guys.
DQ
I think
alpha,
this is what we're going to do
1.1.
today.
Possible 1.2, 1.3, and 4 alleles, indicating a mixture.
Okay. When you
We
say
are.
indicating a mixture, why is that an indication of a mixture?
Because, again, there were more than 2 alleles.
Could you
We are
remove that
going.
cover?
We are going to the end of this video. We are at speed 1.25. This video has 20 minutes left, but we'll get done a little quicker than that. So it's probably going to hit the 2-hour mark anyway. Anyway, I'm going to continue this video even if we go over 2 hours for a bit. No, this stream has been going on for 1 hour and 45 minutes, so I really only have 15 minutes left. But I'm going to continue until we get through this, and then tomorrow we finish May 17th.
And does that accurately describe what you've just told us?
It also includes the D1S80 results, which I didn't state, but
Okay, what were they?
18 and 24 alleles were detected.
Okay, and you've described that the RFLP results were consistent with a mixture of 2 people, Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman. What can you tell us about the PCR results?
The PCR results would also be consistent with the mixture of those 2 individuals.
Could you remove under the not excluded column the cover of that? And is it true that the PCR results, in essence, do not exclude Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman,
Yes,
as well as a whole bunch of other possibilities?
that's correct.
Okay. Moving on to G2. You've already described on AM 626, we've seen 3 autorads showing
I don't
RFLP
know.
mixture results from that.
It looks like we are stuck with this type of testimony. I don't know if it's this witness, it could be, until May 23rd. And I don't know if it changes after May 23rd. This is the May 30th is the next time we see a new face. But I don't think this guy, oh wait, no. May 26th. Before then, it's just all the lawyers and the guy who's questioning now. So it's probably blood testimony. This is the last time we see his face on here, but that doesn't mean he's done. But he could be done. So tomorrow we start May 17th. Wait. Tomorrow we finish May 17th. And then it looks like, I don't know, he could still be on the stand or not. It doesn't really, he has to still be on the stand. That's stupid because the defense hasn't tore him apart yet. So this looks like it's the defense tearing him apart. Maybe until May 22nd. Maybe. That's all I can say is maybe because it doesn't really say here. So we'll see.
Matt, is that the sum total of the RFLP results that you obtained in this case?
Yes.
3 or how many?
I'm sorry, there were 4 actually.
Okay, would you remove the cover of the
Okay.
RFLP result column for G2, which you previously described and shown to the jury? And there's actually one more autorad that shows a similar result,
Yes.
that there was a mixture.
Yes.
And the mixture was consistent with whom?
The mixture was consistent with Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman.
And what PCR test did you submit that stain to?
That was tested for D1S80 and DQ alpha.
And what results did you obtain?
The results were as follows for DQ alpha: 1.1, possible 1.2, 1.3,
Oh, my
and
mic
4
is on.
alleles,
Sorry.
again indicating a mixture, and D1S80, 18 and 24 alleles.
Okay, would you remove the cover for the PCR results for G2? Does what's described there accurately depict your results?
Yes.
Okay, and are those results consistent and corroborative of the RFLP results?
Yes.
In what way?
Well, again, they're consistent with the mixture of Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman.
Do they help you say anything else?
Well, there are only certain possibilities, yes,
Okay.
but that's all I can say with regards to those.
Okay.
the
Are
principles
you
in this
saying
case.
that Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman could have produced the mixtures that were seen on G2?
Yes.
As well as a number of other possibilities?
Yes.
Can you remove the not excluded column? Now let's just talk about G1 and G2 together for a moment. Do the known types of Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman account for all of the RFLP and PCR results that you've described so far?
Yes.
In other words, there's nothing in there that's foreign or extraneous to a mixture of those people.
That's correct.
Is that correct? Okay. G3, you previously described your RFLP results. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
And how many actual probes or genetic markers did you test G3 for?
I want to just review to make sure I've got that correct. 8.
I'm sorry?
8.
8. And what was your conclusion just based on the RFLP results?
Just on the RFLP results,
Yes.
well, that provided very strong evidence that that was Ronald Goldman's blood on the glove, the RFLP alone.
Okay. Could you remove the cover there? Okay. We'll come back to what you've described as very strong evidence in a little bit. Did you perform PCR testing on that stain?
On that particular stain, yes,
What test did you submit that stain to?
DQ alpha and D1S80.
What results did you obtain?
For DQ alpha, 1.3, 4, possible 1.2, and possible trace of the 1.1 allele.
Okay, could you remove the cover and we'll talk about that? Make sure it reflects what you just told us.
And again, the D1S80 type is 24, 24.
Okay, now, you've got possible 1.2 and possible trace 1.1 in there. Can you tell us why you've used those terms to describe what you saw?
Yes, one of the limitations of the DQ alpha typing system is that the 1.2 allele cannot always be determined in a mixture because there's no unique probe for that 1.2 allele as that test is performed. So one has to, by looking at the pattern of dots, one has to make an inference that it may be there. And if it may be there, then we would say possible 1.2.
Is that in all mixtures or just certain mixtures of types?
Just certain mixtures.
Okay, go ahead and let's talk about the 1.1.
The 1.1 is also a situation where with this particular typing system, you can sometimes see a weak signal at the 1.1 dot because of a phenomenon that's called DX alpha. It's not to get overly technical, but one has to know that sometimes you can see a weak signal at that 1.1 dot even though there is not a 1.1 present.
Is this phenomenon described in scientific literature?
Yes, it's well described in the scientific literature. It's part of the user guide that comes with the kit, and anybody that's using this should be aware of that.
Now, before we talk about the not excluded column, You're not saying that it's possible that Mr. Simpson's blood is in there, are you?
I would not make that conclusion based on those results.
Even though there's a possible 1 point, or a possible 1.2 and a possible trace 1.1.
Well, I do not see his D1S80 type there, and so I wouldn't make that inference that.
Okay, before we uncover the not excluded, what about Nicole Brown? What could you say? You're not saying that she's not excluded as a result of these tests, are you?
Again, I don't see her 18 there, so there's no evidence for there. Is it possible that, for example, she or Mr. Simpson could be making a very minute contribution to this? Yes, it's possible, but
That's not your opinion.
no, I see no evidence for that, and I don't think
Okay.
that should be stated.
Could you cover,
Move to strike possibility.
could you remove the not excluded? So is it your opinion that Mr. Goldman could be, there's strong evidence that Mr. Goldman could be the source of the stain on area G3?
Move to strike the term strong evidence.
Yes.
Okay, we'll move on to G4 then. You previously described G4 and shown some autorads on AM 626. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And the jury got to see 3 of the autorads. How many autorads genetic marker tests did you actually submit this stain to?
At this point, it's probably a good idea to make a correction. There were 4 probes originally on G1, G2, and G4, but as you'll recall, we added the D5 later, which I think is one we showed. So these are actually now 5, including G4. Those should all actually be 5.
Okay, we'll get a patch sometime during the day for G1, G2, and G4.
Yes.
So why don't we talk about, just summarize your observations about G4. You've described it as a mixture?
Yes. With
And
the RFLP.
With the RFLP. What sorts of PCR tests did you subject G4 to?
G4 was subjected to DQ alpha and D1S80 typing.
And what were your results?
The results were that for DQ alpha, 1.1, possible 1.2, 1.3, and 4 alleles, mixture indicated.
Okay, so clearly it's a mixture,
Yes.
and that's corroborative of what you saw with the RFLP results, is that correct?
Yes.
Could you remove the cover from the PCR results on G4? Now, is the result from G4 any different from the result on G2, the PCR results?
Yes.
Yes, it is?
Yes.
And could you describe what it is that's different about G4 from G2?
The clear difference that we've seen here was that for G4, the 18 allele on D1S80 was weaker than the 24 allele.
What's the significance of that?
Well, the
Move to
significance.
strike through the surface.
I'll withdraw the question. Oh. Anything about the DQ alpha results?
The DQ alpha
That's
results
different.
were reported in the same fashion. No, they were reported in the same fashion.
And are your PCR results corroborative of the mixture that you've already described and demonstrated to the jury from G4, from glove number 9 at Rockingham?
Yes.
How?
Well, again, the RFLP results and the PCR results are consistent with a mixture of Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman.
Could you remove the not excluded column? Well, you've got Ronald Goldman and Nicole Brown listed there. Does that mean they're the possible source?
Yes.
And when you say possible source, there are many other possibilities, is that correct?
Yes, there are many other possibilities.
On the other hand, is all of the data that you observed in the RFLP results and the PCR
What is
results
the
on G4,
point?
is that all accounted for when one
What's the point of covering the results and then picking them off one at a time? Are they thinking it might be leading the witness? Because the witness wrote reports. The witness you can't lead the witness to an answer right now because they already gave their answers. So what's the point of covering the answers? Is it supposed to be riveting for the jury to keep them? Because it's not. It's just not.
combines the types of Mr. Goldman and Nicole Brown.
Yes.
So there's nothing foreign to either Ronald Goldman or Nicole Brown in any of the stains that we've discussed to this point, G1, G2, G3, and G4. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Let's talk about G9, okay? That is not one of the stains that was subjected to RFLP typing, is that correct?
That's correct.
What sort of test did you subject G9 to?
G9 was tested for D2 alpha and D1S8 PCR markers.
And what results were obtained?
For G9, DQ alpha was 1.3, comma 4, possible 1.2, with possible trace 1.1.
Could you remove that cover from that column of PCR results, please? Now, are these results different than the PCR results in G9? Are they in any way different than the results from, say, G4?
Well, they're different in that we did not detect the 18 allele, for example, in G9, which we did detect in G4. Also, there is a difference with regards to the 1.1 allele. It was determined to be clearly present in G4, but now it's dropped down to the category of possible trace in G9.
Okay, so just move up one notch then. Are the results that you obtained from G9 from the glove at Rockingham, are they consistent with the results, just the PCR results that you obtained from G3?
Yes,
Okay, the possible 1.2 that you've already described the explanation for,
right?
and the possible trace 1.1, is that right?
Yes.
Now, you're not saying that it is your opinion that based on those possibilities that Mr. Simpson is not excluded, are you?
Can you rephrase that? That had a lot of
A couple of
negatives.
negatives in there, huh? Are you saying that Mr. Simpson is not excluded as a result of your analysis
Wait.
on G9, the
What?
glove?
Well, I find
What do you
no
mean?
evidence, for example, of his 25 allele.
The jury is in here, right? I think the jury is in the room. I'm pretty sure the jury is listening.
So I wouldn't say he's in that category.
Okay, and from among the three reference types in this case, whom have you not excluded as the source of G9?
That would be Ronald Goldman.
Could you remove that cover?
Or we're going to have to go through this all again. Yeah,
So
because
G9 is not a mixture.
the jury is definitely in there. Because remember, Judge Ito just said, Juror 7 can't see that. Mr. Simpson, can you move?
Well, there's no clear mixture there. Is it possible that there's some traces that are causing a mixture? Yes, but it's not what we would call a clear-cut mixture.
And everything that you see concretely, could that be accounted for from the typing that you performed on Mr. Goldman's reference sample?
Yes,
Let's move on to G10 then. No RFLP results on G10?
that's correct.
What sorts of tests did you subject that stain to?
That was subjected to PCR tests, DQ alpha and D1S80.
And what results did you obtain?
For DQ alpha, 1.3, comma 4, possible 1.2, and then weaker 1.1 allele, indicating a mixture. For D1S80, 24 allele, and then a weaker 25 allele, again indicating a mixture.
So we got something
He's
new
so
in the mix here. Huh?
excited about it, guys.
That's correct. This is where we first found the 25 allele.
And the 25 allele from among the three reference types.
Okay. Just stay with me for a second. Imagine him and Cato in an animated discussion.
In this case, is there anyone that has the 25 allele at the D1S80 locus?
The defendant has the 25 allele.
Okay, would you uncover the results from G10? And are those results accurately described for G10 on our result board?
Yes.
Now, let's talk about DQ alpha.
About pineapple on pizza. It's the only thing that they would both be animated about.
Is there anything about your observations of the DQ alpha results that helps you sort out how many people are involved here?
Well, it's still difficult to say exactly how many, but one notices that there's information there about the 1.1 allele being weaker than the 1.3 and 4 alleles.
And what's the significance of that?
Well, that gives us some information as to whether or not which alleles might go with the other alleles.
And whom were you able to exclude from among the three reference types in this case as the possible source of what you saw in stain G10?
We were able to exclude Nicole Brown because we didn't find her 18 allele on the D1S80.
Okay, would you remove that cover? So you were able to exclude Ms. Brown as a possible source for the mixture that you saw there?
Yes,
Okay, you were not able to exclude Mr. Goldman.
that's correct.
You were not able to exclude the defendant.
That's correct.
Now, is all of the data, all of the types that you observed in the DQ alpha results and the D1S80 results consistent with a mixture of Mr. Goldman and Mr. Simpson?
Yes, it is consistent with the mixture of those two individuals.
So there are no alleles that are unaccounted for from what, if you mixed Mr. Goldman's blood and Mr. Simpson's blood?
That's a stain.
Are there any alleles unaccounted for in your results when you compare the mixture results you obtained with a combination of the types of Mr. Goldman and Mr. Simpson?
No.
And is this stain different than every other stain you've described to this point? G1, G2, G3, G4, and G9.
Objection to the term stain.
Yes, it is different. And the key finding is the 25 allele on D1S80.
Okay, let's move on to G11. No RFLP testing done on this stain?
That's correct.
What sorts of tests did you perform on this stain?
Josh,
The only test that was performed
you are not the father.
was the D1S80 test.
And why was that?
Because
We
you're
haven't
too
performed
young.
any V2 alpha typing yet on this.
Sorry.
series.
Okay, what were the results of the D1S80 testing on G11?
On G11, the finding was that the 24 allele,
I am also not
and
the
then
father.
weaker 25 and 18 alleles, again indicating a mixture because there's 3 alleles.
Okay, would you remove that cover from the stain at G11? And is what's on the board accurately describe the results of your D1S80 testing on G11?
Yes.
And whom were you able to exclude, or I'm sorry, let me withdraw that. From among the 3 reference types in this case, whom were you not able to exclude as a possible source of the D1S80 mixture that's on the board?
I could not exclude any of the 3 individuals, the defendant, Nicole Brown, or Mr. Golden,
And why is that?
because this pattern is consistent with their types. In other words, their D1S80 types, those alleles, which would be 18, 24, and 25, are all found in that state.
And if one were to mix Nicole Brown's blood sample with Ronald Goldman's blood sample,
This question. Stain for blood.
Sustained.
if one were to combine the types of Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman for the D1S80 marker, what would the combined types be?
If you combine just those 2 individuals,
Sure.
you would see the 18 allele and the 24 allele.
You would not see the 25 allele.
That's correct. It's foreign to both of them.
So the 25 allele could not have come from Ronald Goldman.
That's correct.
The 25 allele could not have come from Nicole Brown.
That's correct.
Asked and
Could you
answered.
remove the cover of the not excluded column that describes your conclusions? Now, you're not saying, are you, that the D1S80 results could only have come from a combination of those 3 people, are you?
I'm not saying that, no.
Are those results consistent with a mixture of those 3 people?
Yes.
Let's move on to G12, if you would.
Okay?
No RFLP testing on that stain?
No, only D1S80 testing.
And what sorts of D1S80 testing was done? I'm sorry.
It was just D1S80 testing.
Okay, what results did you obtain?
That was a 24 allele and then a weaker 18 allele indicating a mixture.
Okay, could you remove that cover? Now, the 25
Nicole
allele
and OJ.
for
Let's
marker
go.
for the
Come
D1S80
on.
genetic marker is not in G12, is that true?
That's correct. The 25 allele is not present in that sample.
Could you step over to the photo board here and let's talk about where the relationship of G10 to G11 and G12, and we'll do this again with G13 and G14. It's a dark object. I'd like you to start out with G10 and then describe exactly where it is and what kind of surface it's on.
G10 is on the inside lining of the glove. This would be towards the thumb, down near the wristwatch. It's the red line is very close to it. It's actually a little bit closer in there where I'm pointing now. It's in that general area. This was a small area of blood stain that I detected in that particular area. That's G10. Then G11 is now on the outside of the glove. This is now the palmar surface of the glove. G11 is here to the side of this wrist notch that I discussed earlier. That's G11. And then G12 is on the, excuse me, the outside palmar surface also, near the wrist notch. Then G13 is along this stitched border of the wrist notch area. And finally, G14 is on the inside back surface near the wrist.
I'm sorry, G14?
I'm sorry, it's on the inside
Inside.
lining.
Yeah.
That would be the back of the hand, near the wrist.
Okay, why don't we go back up to the board there, the result board, Mr. Sims. The G12, you only found 24, and an 18. Were you able to exclude anybody from among the three reference types in this case, from the two victims and Mr. Simpson, the defendant?
We were able to exclude Mr. Simpson because we did not find his 25 allele on this particular sample, G12.
And whom were you not able to exclude?
We were not able to exclude Ronald Goldman and Nicole Brown.
Could you remove that cover? G13, you did not perform any RFLP tests on that stain?
That's correct, only D1S80.
And what were the D1S80 results from G13?
The D1S80 results were the 24 allele was present, along with weaker 25 and 18 alleles.
So the 25 allele is there again, is that correct?
That's correct.
And from among the three people, the two victims, Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman, and the defendant, who's the only one that has the 25 allele?
That is the defendant.
Could you remove the cover for that? Every stain that had the 25 allele in it, G10, G11, and G13, was in close proximity to that notch on the wrist.
Yes.
Could you step back to the board and just go G10, G11, and G13?
G10, again, as I mentioned earlier, is a little closer to the notch than the red line shows. G11 is on the outside near the notch area, and then G13 is along that stitch, along the notch, along the palmar surface near the wrist.
Okay, why don't we finish with G14 from the Rockingham glove, number 9. No RFLP tests were done on that stain?
On G14, no RFLP, only D1S80.
Only D1S80. What results did you obtain?
The results were as follows. The type was determined to be basically a 24-24 with a possible trace of the 18 allele.
Good. And would you remove the cover from that board? And the 25 is not in that stain, or you did not detect it, is that right?
That's correct.
Were you able to exclude, based on that, Mr. Simpson, the defendant, as a possible source of that stain?
We did not detect the 25 allele, so we were able to exclude him on that.
And are those results consistent with a mixture of the two victims?
Well, the way we phrased that was that it was certainly the 24-24 by itself was consistent with Ronald Goldman's D1S80 type. We noted that it was possible there was a possible contribution from Nicole Brown on the 18 allele, the basis of the 18 allele.
Okay. Why don't we move on to the sock testing results? I'd like to, the sock result board has previously been marked as Exhibit 262, and we should have 262A then for the sock photo board then.
We switched to the next day, and I didn't even know it. We've been on the next day for 4 minutes now. Well, a little bit, and I didn't even notice because I'm not very observant. That's all right. That's all right. That's good. We got further than we thought. Guys, thank you so much for coming out today. I really, really, really appreciate it. And tomorrow we get to see more boards. Yes, sir. But don't worry. Most of it will be covered up, so we only get to see pieces of it at a time. I know, right? I know. Bye, guys. Thank you.